The sun had barely risen when Rafik stepped out of his small, broken house, carrying his infant child wrapped in an old cloth. The baby had been crying through most of the night, his weak voice becoming softer every hour. Rafik's heart felt heavier than his tired arms. He knew the child was hungry, really hungry, and he had nothing left to give. The last drop of milk in the house had been finished 2 days ago. His wife had passed away months earlier, and ever since then, he had struggled to care for their newborn on his own. Rafik walked through the dusty streets with shaky steps. His clothes were worn, his face pale with exhaustion, and his eyes filled with fear. Every person he passed seemed to look away quickly, pretending not to notice the crying baby. He didn't blame them. People were fighting their own battles. But today, he needed help more than ever. His child's life depended on it. He approached the first house, knocked softly, then harder when no one answered. A woman opened the door, slightly peeking out. Rafik held out the baby and said in a trembling voice, "Please, my child is hungry. I just need a little milk." The woman shook her head, murmured that she had none, and closed the door before he could speak again. Rafik felt the familiar sting of rejection, but he forced himself to move on. He knocked on another door, then another. Most people didn't open. Those who did looked at him with suspicion, like he was begging for money or lying. A few even accused him of trying to trick them. With each refusal, he felt his hope slipping away. His throat tightened as he heard his baby's cries becoming weaker, almost like the child was giving up. He paused under the shade of a tree, holding the baby close to his chest. Tears blurred his vision. He whispered to the child, "Hold on. My son, I'm trying so hard." He wished his wife were still alive. She would have known what to do. She always had answers, always stayed strong. Now the weight of everything was on him, and he felt like he was failing. After resting for a moment, Rafik wiped his eyes and continued walking. He had reached the edge of the neighborhood, where the houses were cleaner and better built. He hesitated. Would the people here even listen to him? Would they care about someone like him? He took a deep breath. His child was more important than his pride. He approached a neat-looking house with potted plants by the door. Gathering his courage, he knocked. For a moment, silence. Then the door opened, and a young woman stood there. She looked calm, gentle, and a little surprised to see a man holding a crying baby outside her home. Rafik bowed his head slightly, embarrassed by his condition. "Madam, please," he began, voice cracking. "My child hasn't had milk for 2 days. He is very weak. I am not asking for money. Only a little milk. Please help us." The woman looked at the baby, noticing the thinness of his arms, the tears on his cheeks, and the way he clung to his father's shirt. Her expression softened, but she didn't speak immediately. She seemed to weigh the situation carefully. Rafik felt his heart beating faster. If she refused, he didn't know where else to go. He waited, his breath unsteady, his entire body tense with worry. Finally, she stepped aside and said, "Come inside." Rafik was shocked. No one had invited him inside before. He entered slowly, carefully, as if afraid the moment was a dream that might break. The woman closed the door gently behind him. She led him to a small sitting area. "Sit down," she said softly. Rafik lowered himself onto the chair. His hands trembled as he held his child. The woman watched them with a deep concern in her eyes, a concern Rafik had not seen in anyone else that morning. He whispered, thank you so much." His voice was filled with a mixture of relief and desperation. The woman nodded, but didn't respond immediately. She looked at the baby again, and something changed in her expression, something warm, something protective. Rafik didn't know it yet, but this moment would change everything. He had come begging for milk, but fate was about to give him more help than he ever imagined. The woman, whose name was Sana, walked toward the kitchen without saying much. Rafik sat quietly, holding the baby, unsure of what to expect. The house felt peaceful, filled with soft colors and the scent of fresh flowers. For a moment, he felt like he had stepped into another world, a world far kinder than the one he had been struggling through. Sana returned with a glass of water and gently placed it on the table. "You look tired," she said softly. "Drink this." Her voice was calm, warm, and carried a kindness Rafik had not heard in a long time. He nodded gratefully, but before he reached for the glass, the baby let out a weak cry. Rafik looked down, heart aching. The child's face was pale, his lips dry. Rafik whispered, "Just a little more time, my son. Help is coming." Sana watched them silently. She had seen hunger before seeing desperation in people's eyes. But something about this father stirred her deeply. There was no selfishness in his request, no hidden intentions, only pure worry for his child. It moved her heart in a way she did not expect. After a moment, she said, "I don't have any milk at home." Rafik froze, feeling the last bit of hope inside him crumble. His head lowered, and his shoulders sagged as if the weight of the whole world had pressed down on him. Before he could speak, Sana continued, "But I can still help your baby." Rafik looked up, confused. "Help? How?" Sana sat across from him, her eyes gentle but firm. "Your child needs more than milk right now. He needs someone to care for him properly. Someone who can feed him." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "I can feed him myself." For a moment, Rafik didn't understand. His mind was too tired, too overwhelmed. "Feed him yourself?" he repeated softly, unsure if he had heard correctly. Sana nodded. "Yes, I can nurse him. I lost my own baby a few months ago." Her voice broke slightly, but she quickly steadied herself. "My body still produces milk. I can help your child." Rafik felt the world blur. Surprise, confusion, relief, and a strange sense of gratitude flooded through him all at once. He did not know how to respond. He had been turned away so many times that he almost couldn't believe someone was offering something so personal, so compassionate. He whispered, "Are you sure?" I don't want to trouble you." Sana shook her head. "It is no trouble. If I can save a child's life, even a little, how can I refuse?" She reached out her hands. "Give him to me." Rafik hesitated only a second before placing the baby gently in her arms. Watching the way she held his son with such tenderness and care made his eyes fill with tears once again. Sana's touch was natural, instinctive like she had been waiting for this child. She carried the baby to a quiet corner of the room, held him close, and began feeding him. The baby latched on weakly at first, then more strongly, as if he finally felt safe. His little hands relaxed, and the painful crying slowly turned into soft breaths. Rafik covered his mouth with his hand, trying to control the emotion rising in his chest. It was the first time in days he had seen his child calm. The sight broke him in the most beautiful way. Sana looked at the baby with gentle tears in her eyes. She could feel the warmth of his small body, the desperate hunger, the innocence. For months she had carried an empty ache inside herself, a mother's love with no child to give it to. But in this moment, that hollow space in her heart began to fill again. The baby drank eagerly, his tiny fingers curling around Sana's clothes. She whispered to him, "It's okay, little one, you're safe now." Rafik lowered his head, whispering prayers of gratitude. He had come begging for milk, but God had sent him something far greater, a woman whose compassion reached beyond charity. She wasn't just helping. She was giving life back to his child. After some time, Sana returned with the baby sleeping peacefully in her arms. She handed him back to Rafik, her voice soft but determined. "He is still weak. He needs to be fed regularly. Come back tomorrow, and the next day, as long as he needs." Rafik stared at her, speechless. This woman, who owed him nothing, had opened her home, her heart, and her motherhood to his child. In that moment, an unspoken bond formed between them, one that destiny had quietly prepared. When Rafik stepped out of Sana's home with his sleeping baby in his arms, he felt lighter than he had in months. The child's soft breathing brought him comfort, and he walked back through the streets with renewed hope. But as soon as he reached his small home, reality reminded him that this peace was fragile. The baby needed regular feeding, and he had nothing, not food, not money, not strength. All he had was Sana's kindness. The next morning, before the sun had fully risen, Rafik wrapped his child in the same thin cloth and set out again. The baby woke up crying softly, but it was not the desperate cry from the day before. There was a little more life in his voice, a little more strength in his tiny fists. Rafik felt grateful for even that small change. As he reached Sana's neighborhood, he walked faster, eager to bring the baby back to the one person who had shown them compassion. When he knocked on her door, Sana opened it quickly, as if she had been waiting. "You came early," she said with a gentle smile. He was hungry again. Rafik replied, his voice humble. Sana nodded. "Bring him in." She took the baby carefully from Rafik's arms, holding him close. The moment her hands touched him, her expression changed. Her eyebrows pulled together, and a deep concern filled her eyes. She examined his face, his thin arms, the dullness in his eyes. "He's still very weak," she whispered. Rafik looked down, ashamed. "I know, but I am trying." Sana shook her head quickly. "I'm not blaming you. You've done everything you could. But this child needs more than occasional feeding." Her serious tone made Rafik's stomach twist. Is he getting worse?" Sana didn't answer immediately. She held the baby close to her chest, rocking gently as she studied him. She noticed how light he felt, far too light for a child. His age, his ribs showed slightly, and his skin felt dry. She could feel the faint tremble in his small body, as if he barely had the strength to move. "He is dehydrated," she finally said softly. "And he hasn't been fed enough for a long time." Rafik swallowed hard. His voice cracked. "What do I do? I don't want to lose him. He is all I have." Sana met his eyes with a steady look. "You won't lose him, not if we act now. I will feed him, but he needs care throughout the day, not just once. I can help him, but you must let me." Rafik stared at her. The idea of leaving his child with someone else felt frightening, yet seeing the baby's fragile condition made it clear he had no choice. Sana understood her own words had scared him, so she spoke more gently. "I'm not taking him away from you," she assured him. "You will always be his father. I only want to help him survive." She then carried the baby to her room, sat down, and began feeding him again. This time, the baby latched on more quickly, as if he recognized her comforting touch. As he drank, his tiny body relaxed, and for a moment, the room filled with quiet peace. Rafik watched from the doorway, tears gathering in his eyes. He felt helpless but also deeply grateful. Sana was treating his child like her own. After a few minutes, Sana looked up. "He is improving already, but very slowly. He needs someone to monitor him all day long." Rafik's heart tightened. "I can stay here," he said quickly. "I will do anything." Sana shook her head gently. "You have to work. You need to earn something. I don't want you to lose your job because of this." He hesitated. "Then what should I do?" Sana took a deep breath, choosing her words with care. "Leave him with me during the day. I will feed him, clean him, and watch over him. You can take him home at night." Her offer stunned him. No one had ever helped him this much, not even family. Trusting someone with his baby was a huge step, but seeing her devotion, he felt something inside him shift. Maybe destiny had brought them here. "Sana, I don't know how to repay you," he said in a trembling voice. "You don't need to repay me," she replied softly, looking down at the sleeping child. "I lost a child once. Maybe God sent this one to me to heal a part of my heart. Rafiq swallowed hard, touched by her honesty. At that moment, he realized that Sana did not see his child as a burden. She saw him as someone precious, the baby. Stirred in her arms, and Sana smiled faintly. "He will be all right," she whispered. "We will make sure of it." And for the first time in a long while, both Rafiq and the child had someone who truly cared, someone who saw more than their struggle, someone who saw their worth. The days that followed moved slowly, yet every hour brought a small changes. That Rafiq could see clearly each evening when he returned to Sana's home to take his baby back. The baby's cries grew stronger, his eyes opened wider, and his tiny hands began to move more. Each improvement felt like a miracle, yet none of it would have been possible without Sana's constant care. One evening, after finishing work early, Rafiq went to pick up his baby. He stood outside Sana's house and heard soft humming from inside. When the door opened, he saw Sana sitting on a chair, cradling the child gently as she sang a lullaby. Her voice was soft and warm, something a child would instantly feel safe with. Rafiq paused at the doorway, afraid to interrupt such a peaceful moment. Sana looked up with a smile. "He just fell asleep," she whispered. "He drank well today. He's getting stronger." Rafiq stepped inside slowly. "Because of you," he said, his voice filled with gratitude he could barely express. Sana shook her head. "Because he is a fighter," she replied. "He just needed someone to guide him a little." But Rafiq knew the truth. His child had survived because she had stepped in when everyone else had stepped away. As he prepared to take the baby home, Sana looked at him with concern. "Rafiq, can I speak with you for a moment?" He nodded nervously. Her tone was serious, and fear crept into his chest. She gestured toward the couch, and they both sat down. "There is something important I need to say," she began. Rafiq leaned forward, his heart pounding. "Is something wrong with the baby?" "No," she said quickly. "He is doing better every day. But that is why I need to talk to you." Rafiq felt slightly confused. "I don't understand." Sana took a deep breath. "Your baby needs continuous feeding, every few hours, you know that. But you work all day and you come home exhausted. How long can you manage this on your own?" Her words were gentle, but they struck deep. Rafiq lowered his head. He had no answer. He knew she was right. He had been struggling long before he knocked on her door. His wife's death had left him wounded, overwhelmed, and alone with a newborn. He barely knew how to care for. Sana continued. "He needs stability. He needs warmth. He needs a mother's presence." Rafiq's eyes stung with emotion. "But I am his father. I am trying, truly trying." Sana reached out, touching his arm lightly. "I know, and you are a good father, but even the strongest people need help." A long silence filled the room as the weight of her words sank. And finally, she spoke the most unexpected words he had ever heard. "Let me take care of him, not just during the day, but completely, as a mother would." Rafiq's breath caught in his throat. What do you mean?" Sana looked down at the baby sleeping peacefully in her arms. "I lost my child before he even had a chance to live. My heart has been empty since then. Your baby? He has filled a part of that emptiness. I want to give him the love I lost. I want to raise him, protect him, feed him, and be the mother he desperately needs." Rafiq felt dizzy. His mind couldn't process her words. "You want to become his mother?" Sana nodded slowly. "Yes, not to replace you, never that. You will always be his father. But I want to share this responsibility with you, permanently." Rafiq stood, pacing in confusion. "This is too big of a decision," he whispered. "How can I give my child to someone else?" Sana's voice softened. "I'm not asking you to give him away. I'm asking you to let me join your life, if you will allow it." He turned to her, stunned. "Join my life?" She nodded again, her cheeks turning slightly red. I am alone, you are alone. But together, we can give this child a family something he deserves. Rafik felt his heart shaking. He stared at her, the woman who had fed his child, comforted him, and poured her love into him without expecting anything in return. In her eyes, he saw sincerity, strength, and a love deeper than mere kindness. The decision was enormous, life-changing. It was not just about them. It was about the future of his child. Rafik whispered, "I need time to think." Sana nodded respectfully. "Of course. Take all the time you need." He took the baby into his arms and walked out slowly. The night air felt heavy around him. He looked at the small face resting against his shoulder. A father's love tugged at him on one side. A woman's pure love shone on the other, and somewhere between those two forces, a decision waited. A decision that would change all their lives forever. That night, sleep refused to come to Rafik. He lay on the thin mat beside his baby, listening to the quiet breathing of the little boy who had suffered so much. Every few minutes, he reached out to touch the child's tiny hand, as if to make sure he was still there. Sana's offer echoed over and over in his mind. "Let me take care of him. Completely, as a mother would." Those words shook him deeply. Rafik pressed his palm over his forehead, trying to calm his racing thoughts. He had begged for milk, expecting nothing more than a little kindness. Instead, God had placed before him a decision that could shape his child's entire future. How could he give someone such a place in their lives? How could he allow another woman to become like a mother to his son? Yet at the same time, how could he deny help that was offered with such pure love? When morning came, Rafik was exhausted, but he knew he had to go to work. He carried his baby to Sana's house, as he had done every day since meeting her. But this time his steps were slower, heavier, not because he doubted her, but because he doubted himself. Would he make the right choice? When Sana opened the door, her eyes softened immediately. She noticed the tiredness in his face. "You didn't sleep," she said gently. Rafik shook his head. "I couldn't. I kept thinking." Sana took the baby from his arms and held him close. The child clung to her shirt, recognizing the warmth he had grown used to. Watching that connection made something twist inside Rafik's heart. Pain and relief mixed together. "Sit," she said softly. Rafik sat on the edge of the sofa, his hands unsure of where to rest. Sana sat beside him, rocking the baby slowly. They didn't speak for several moments, but the silence wasn't uncomfortable. It was thoughtful waiting. Finally, Rafik broke it. "Sana, when you said you wanted to take care of him fully, what did you really mean?" Sana looked at him calmly. "I meant that I want him to have a mother again. And I want to be that person, if you will let me." Rafik swallowed. "Why?" "You owe us nothing." Sana looked down at the child, brushing her thumb gently over his tiny cheek. "You know, when I lost my baby, I thought my heart would never heal. I felt empty every day. When I first saw your son, weak and crying, something inside me came alive again. I felt like I had a purpose." Her voice trembled slightly. "And now, I cannot imagine my days without him." Rafik's chest tightened. He had been holding back his emotions for too long. "What if I fail him again?" he whispered. "I couldn't save his mother. I couldn't feed him. I couldn't protect him. I am afraid that maybe I am not enough." Sana turned to him quickly. "No, Rafik. You have done everything a father could do. You fought for him. You begged for him. You swallowed your pride for him. That is love, not failure." But Rafik shook his head, tears filling his eyes. "You say that, but look at him." He gestured toward the baby. "He is alive because of you, not me." Sana reached out and placed her hand gently over his. "No, he is alive because you kept trying. You didn't give up. You brought him to me. That is as important as anything I have done." Her words broke open something inside him, A tear slipped down his cheek, then another. Rafiq quickly looked away, ashamed. "I am a grown man," he said, voice shaking. "But I feel so helpless." Sana squeezed his hand. "You are not helpless. You are human. And being human means you sometimes need support. Let me give you that support." Rafiq looked up, eyes red. "You really want to be a mother to him? Even though he is not yours?" Sana nodded firmly. Love does not need blood to be real. For a moment, they sat in silence again. The baby slept peacefully between them, unaware of the storm of emotion surrounding him. Rafiq took a long breath. "If I allow this, if I allow you into our lives, it means everything will change." Sana nodded. "Yes, but it will change. For the better." Rafiq's voice cracked. "And what about me? Where do I stand in all this?" Sana met his eyes gently. "Where you have always stood, as his father. As the one who never stopped fighting. I am not replacing you, I am joining you." Her words settled softly into his heart. Slowly, Rafiq nodded. "I don't want my son to suffer anymore. If you truly want to help, then maybe this is what destiny planned." Sana smiled softly, tears glistening in her eyes. "Then, we do it together." For the first time in months, Rafiq felt something he thought he had lost hope, and as he looked at Sana holding his child with such affection, a new truth dawned on him. Sometimes family isn't chosen by blood. It is chosen by love. Over the next few weeks, life began to shift in ways Rafiq had never imagined. What started as a desperate plea for milk slowly turned into a bond so deep, so natural, that even the neighbors began to notice the change. Sana's home, once quiet and filled only with memories of loss, now echoed with the soft cries, laughter, and tiny movements of a growing baby. Her days revolved around feeding him, bathing him, and holding him close. And with each passing day, the child responded more to her touch, her voice, her warmth. It was as if fate itself had placed the baby in her arms. Every morning, Rafiq brought the baby to her house with a calmer heart. His fears still existed, but they no longer controlled him. He found comfort in knowing his child wasn't merely surviving, he was blossoming. Sana greeted them with a smile every day, her arms instinctively reaching out to take the baby. The moment she held him, he settled, as though he recognized her as someone meant to be in his life. One afternoon, when Rafiq arrived early from work, he saw something that made him stop in the doorway silently. Sana was sitting on the floor with the baby on her lap. She held his tiny hands and let him bounce gently, teaching him how to balance. He squealed with joy, laughter so pure and innocent that it filled the room like sunlight. Sana laughed with him, her eyes glowing with a happiness she had not felt in a long time. Rafiq stood there, watching them, his heart swelling with emotions he couldn't name. He had never seen his baby so lively, so connected, so loved. For a moment he wondered if this was how his wife would have held their child, if she would have smiled the same way. Sana finally noticed him and blushed slightly. "You're home early," she said, lifting the baby toward him. "He looks happy," Rafiq replied, sitting beside her. "More happy than I have ever seen." Sana looked down at the child. "He has healed me too, Rafiq. I thought I would never be a mother again, but God had a different plan." There was no awkwardness in her words, only truth. And Rafiq felt that truth deeply. As days turned to weeks, Rafiq and Sana began to work together naturally. They fed the baby, played with him, took him outside for sunlight, and celebrated each small milestone. The baby grew stronger, healthier, and more expressive. His laughter filled every corner of Sana's once silent home. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the rooftops, Rafiq and Sana sat together while the baby slept in a small cradle. The warm glow of the room made everything feel soft and peaceful. "Do you ever regret helping us?" Rafiq asked quietly. Sana looked at him with gentle surprise. Regret? Rafik, this child saved me. How? He asked. She took a slow breath. After I lost my baby, I felt empty, like my heart was a house without lights. But your son brought life back into that house. He showed me I still had love to give. Rafik lowered his head. And you gave him what I couldn't. Sana shook her head firmly. No, you gave him life. You fought for him when no one else would. You have done the hardest part. I only added care to your strength. Rafik met her eyes then, and for the first time, he truly believed her. One day, something small yet powerful happened, a moment that touched both their hearts. The baby reached out his tiny hand toward Sana and spoke his first word. Ma. Sana. Froze. Rafik froze. The world itself seemed to pause. The baby repeated it, smiling up at her. Ma. Tears filled Sana's eyes instantly, running down her cheeks. She covered her mouth with her hand, unable to breathe from the shock and the overwhelming joy. Rafik watched her, his own heart trembling. He didn't feel threatened or replaced. Instead, he felt grateful, because his son had found the warmth he deserved. Sana gently scooped the baby into her arms, holding him as tears streamed freely. I'm here, she whispered, voice shaking. I'm here, my son. Rafik placed a hand on her shoulder, his voice soft. He chose you, Sana. Maybe this was always meant to be. Sana looked at him, eyes full of love and disbelief. I will love him with everything I have. And I will stand with you, Rafik replied. In that moment, something unspoken passed between them, something greater than gratitude, greater than duty. It was the beginning of a family formed not by blood, but by choice, compassion, and destiny. A bond beyond blood. The transformation in the small child was nothing short of a miracle, but in truth, it wasn't only the baby who was changing. Every person touched by this strange, unexpected story was experiencing their own quiet transformation, especially Rafik and Sana. Their lives, once filled with loneliness, pain, uncertainty, slowly began to soften under the warmth of shared responsibility and growing trust. Each morning, Rafik woke with a purpose he had never felt before. It was no longer just about survival. It was about building a life where his child could grow with love. He still faced hardship, still worked long hours, and still fought through exhaustion. But at the end of each day, he returned to Sana's home, where his baby's bright eyes greeted him and Sana's soft smile reassured him. Her kindness had not only saved his child, it had revived his spirit. One evening, as Rafik finished his work earlier than usual, he decided to buy a small gift, a colorful rattle. It wasn't expensive, but it was the first toy he had ever bought for his child. His heart beat with excitement as he imagined the baby's reaction. When he arrived at Sana's home, he found her outside in the courtyard, sitting on a mat with the baby. She was gently massaging his arms and legs with warm oil. The baby giggled with delight, kicking his feet happily. The sight filled Rafik with warmth. You're home early today, Sana said, glancing up with a smile. Yes, Rafik replied, handing her the tiny wrapped rattle. I bought something for him. Sana opened it carefully. The baby reached for it instantly, shaking it with curiosity. The sound made him laugh, and Sana smiled with a joy that touched Rafik's heart. He loves it, she said. Rafik watched her expression closely. You look happy, Sana nodded. He has become the light in this house. There were days when I didn't want to wake up, but now every morning I wait to hold him. Her honesty struck Rafik deeply. It reminded him how much she had given emotionally, physically, and spiritually. She didn't just help them. She rebuilt herself through helping them. Sana continued softly, do you know what kindness does, Rafik? It changes people. It changed me. Rafik lowered his gaze. It changed me too, he whispered. Before all this, I felt like my world was falling apart. I lost my wife. I had no money, no support. I felt like I was disappearing. Sana looked at him gently. But you didn't disappear. You fought for your child. You walked through pain and humiliation for him. That's what makes you a real father. Rafiq's throat tightened. If it wasn't for you, he wouldn't be alive. And if it wasn't for you, Sana said softly, I would still be living in silence. Something deep shifted between them, then a connection. That went beyond gratitude or duty. It was the slow, steady building of a partnership shaped by mutual pain and mutual healing. Over the next few days, the baby continued to thrive. His cheeks grew fuller, his eyes sparkled, and he began to respond to voices with excited movements. People in the neighborhood who had once turned Rafiq away now paused to admire the baby's recovery. Some even felt guilty for refusing help when he had knocked on their doors. One neighbor approached Sana and said, I heard everything he had been through. You've done a great thing, madam. Sana only replied, any mother would. But deep inside, she felt something profound. The baby wasn't just someone she was caring for, he felt like a part of her, a missing puzzle piece she had been searching for without even knowing it. One night, after feeding the baby, Sana stepped outside to find Rafiq sitting quietly under the stars. His face looked thoughtful, almost peaceful. You're thinking again, she said gently. Sitting beside him, Rafiq smiled slightly. I've been thinking a lot these days. About what? She asked. He hesitated, then spoke quietly. About how life changes. About how kindness can save someone's world without making any noise. Sana turned to him, listening. You saved mine, he said. Sana blinked, her heart warming. You saved mine too. Their eyes met, and in that moment, there was an understanding deep and wordless. Kindness had transformed them, healed them, and tied their lives together in a way neither had expected. The baby stirred gently in Sana's arms, opening his eyes sleepily. He looked at both of them, then reached his tiny hand toward each in turn. It was as if he already knew the truth that the adults were slowly learning. They were no longer three separate broken souls. They were becoming a family.